everybody, it's David Ault, and I want to welcome you to The Gathering. For those of you who watch this sort of in real time, I want to thank you for your indulgence. I was facilitating a retreat in the mountains of North Carolina. Retreat facilitation, one of my favorite things, and I had grand plans to record this while I was there. But in all of that beauty, very little Wi-Fi. So it worked out perfect because I needed to marinate a little bit more on what I want to share with you today. Also, I've been teaching a course called The 12 Gifts of the Camino, and it reflects upon my pilgrimage through the summer. And so I had pulled a bunch of books off of my shelf to help me with some of the parts of what I was sharing with. One of those books is an old Russian spiritual classic, which translates to say, The Way of a Pilgrim. Honestly, I had barely cracked this book open, but it intrigued me because of the word pilgrim, and it had been sitting there. And when I got back from the retreat, I happened to open it, and in the introduction by a man named Houston Smith, he set up beautifully for what I want to talk to you about today. So listen to this. He says, many years ago, while using a sabbatical to learn something about the Tibetan tradition, I chanced on the Kyoto Monastery, reconstituted in exile in North India, which was one of the two in all Tibet who trained its lamas to chant in an extraordinary way, a way that enabled individual lamas to produce multiple tones simultaneously. In language that is plain if paradoxical, its lamas sing solo chords, solo in that one voice does the singing, chords because multiple tones are sounded simultaneously. Such was the sound that greeted my incredulous ears at 3 a.m. on a full moon October night in the Himalayas, where the wind never stops blowing. A haunting, holy sound. It pursued me, leading me at length to the following understanding of its significance. When the lamas chant in that now famous way, the multiphonic chanting of the Kyoto monks, it is not art for art's sake. It is closer to spiritual technology, for it amounts to a procedure for getting them onto the wavelength of the gods. Sound a string. If a second string is tuned identically, it will pick up the vibrations of the first. So with the lamas. Insofar as they succeed in tuning themselves to the wavelength of the gods' power will infuse them. Isn't that beautiful? And by the way, if you Google, go to YouTube, you can find certain videos of this type of multiphonic chanting. But I want you to now hear what he said. He was saying that the individual lama, the monk, uses its voice singularly. So it sings its song. But they have developed a technique whereby as they sing their song, they also sing a chord structure simultaneously that produces this mysterious, powerful sound that transcends all earthly boundaries and just through the power of listening to it communicates with that which is the heavens or the gods. And it is quite something. You cannot help but feel it when you're listening to this type of chanting. And so he stumbles upon this rare place that where they still do this. And so something happened on the retreat. There was two people who came to me and they said, I don't know if you will remember us, but we came to your first class over 12 years ago when you first moved to Atlanta. So that's been 13 years ago. So sometime between 12 and 13 years ago, these people came to a class. And the class was an introduction to metaphysical New Thought principles. And I think on that night I was talking about gratitude. Gratitude as energy, and the fact that um, energy begats energy. And so those of us who practice some type of spiritual purposefulness around gratitude, whether it's journaling or through affirmation, that the energy of that finds its way to replicate that with the infinite nature of all things that are in harmony, thus producing more to be grateful for. And we talked about the mechanics of that and what we can do. And they said, but you gave us an exercise that literally changed our lives because we did it. And the exercise was to find a group of friends and meet on a regular basis, whether that's over lunch or in your home, and use that time to practice only talking about what's working. So what I did in that class was I put them in groups, and the rule was that they would take turns in their circles, and they could only talk about what's working. And if one of them began to slip into qualifying or talking about certain things that weren't quite right, that the rest of the people in the group weren't going to admonish them. They were just going to hold up their hand to signal that they're off track and to bring it back on track by only talking about what's working. And you'd be surprised at how hard that exercise was for people. And so I would make it granular, and I would say, and if that's really hard for you, then say things like, I have a toothbrush, I have a roof over my head, I have food in my pantry, I have an automobile. Anything to sort of fill the time that you're deliberately making your brain focus on what you do have as opposed to what you don't have. To focus on what is working rather than kvetching and talking about what isn't working. And so they did this exercise, and we talked about how everybody felt when the exercise was over with. And they laughed. Some of them said, "Wow, you kind of let us go on there," and I did. I kind of I remember setting the timer sometimes to like 5 minutes, to where they just had to keep dropping down and dropping down, and they said that was really hard. But once they surrendered to the exercise, they were amazed. They were amazed at how many things were actually working that they never really referenced as that. And success, yay, we all did the exercise and we all benefited from that particular process. And I said, now, what if, just like in this group, you found people who were willing to do this on a regular basis? Most of the time when we meet up with friends over lunch, do you know where the natural order of the conversation goes to? What isn't working? We just do that. We sort of, misery loves company, and it kind of takes over. We do that in our families. We do that with the collective of people that we work with. And I said, what if you took this exercise and you found individuals who were in agreement? And the rule was exactly what happened here in class. You only talk about what's working. It would be interesting then to monitor what happens in the lives of these individuals. And they said that's where it got interesting, because we did that too. We monitored all of the wins, and it seemed as though the wins in our collective lives, those in that group, were amplified. And they said, David, we met for years, long after that was over. And oh my God, I was so filled. I was so thrilled to hear that, because there's no greater satisfaction, I think, as a teacher than for a student to take something and to really apply it, not just consider it or play with it when it's convenient, but to really practice and apply it. And I said, thank you so much. You have no idea what that means to me. And so coming home and reading this, I began to see a correlation between the way in which these lamas, these monks, chant, and the way in which that gratitude exercise is. Meaning that if my voice is the solo song, and that song is dedicated to gratitude, and the chords, if you will, represent the infinite nature of good, the infinite nature of harmony and love, which we profess that this, this universe is comprised of, then by singing that, those chords sort of join with us. And he said, he said it's like when you sound a string. If a second string is tuned identically, it will pick up the vibrations of the first. So if my song is a song of gratitude, then the other string or the other chord, which is the universe, matches that. And what is produced is more of the same. And you know what he called it? Spiritual technology. Isn't that fabulous? Spiritual technology. So gratitude is a spiritual technology that automatically does what? It produces more gratitude in our experience. Not that those things that we are grateful for didn't exist, but now we are tuned into that. And the last piece is, you're probably saying, oh gosh, I've done so much gratitude work. I did the gratitude journals. I did all of those things. Good. I'm glad. And what are we doing now? And I just want to point out that, yeah, we've done all of these exercises. If we've been absorbed in any kind of spiritual work over any amount of time, we've heard it all, we've tried it all. And most of the time we tried it because we were in a lot of pain. And we wanted something to fix the pain, something to pacify the pain, something to fix a problem. What I want to suggest is to begin to reintroduce yourself to gratitude, not because of a problem, but because of a great desire to be more in harmony with the union of the multiphonic sound of the universe. Not because you or I are desperate and we hate where we are, but that we do it because we have become accustomed to realizing that where we are is where we are. That the pain that I may experience now, or the suffering that I may experience now, is part of the human curriculum. It's part of the human design. And I'm not trying to make it go away. I'm bringing a balance. I'm bringing a harmony that even in the duality of being human, I can find things to be grateful for. Do you kind of see the difference? Because a lot of spiritual practice is done in a way to try to get out of something, to try to bury something, to try to outrun something. This is an invitation to look at spiritual practice not in that way, not as a rescuer, but as a collaborator into amplifying our understanding that even in the midst of the duality of being human, there is a ceaseless opportunity to be grateful. That's where I believe that we began to chant the song of the gods, that we began to chant the song of infinite possibility, that we resonate in such a way that we cannot help but see more and more collective good, even when the masses see something entirely different. Is that something that feels good to you? Is that something that calls to you? I know that it does to me, and I know oftentimes as many as many laps around the spiritual block that I've been, I too sometimes default into using spiritual practice as a way to get me out of something. That's what I'm also working on, is instead of trying to escape something, it's just to incorporate it all and to welcome it all. And by welcoming it all, I'm not now dependent upon gratitude as the fixer. I welcome gratitude as the collaborator, to open me up, to be able to see all of the multiplicity of this experience. We need more of that. So sing the song of gratitude. And second, See if you might find a tribe of people, lunchmates, friends in your family, your partner, someone, and try experimenting, getting together on a regular or semi-regular basis. And the rule is only talk about what's working. Begin to notice, begin to document how things in life might appear differently. Report back to me. Know that you are loved and cherished. Till next time.